Maybe not necessarily the test that John Herdman was hoping to see in terms of the final result, but the performance and all of the KPIs or internal objectives that Canada was looking to achieve in this match. I think it's pretty safe to say that they ticked off just about every single box. They got through 6 substitutions as well. There is some potential concern for Alfonso Davies if you're really looking for an area to try and look at potential downsides. But enough from us, or at least for now. Let's go to Vienna with Andy and Ollie. They were there, they saw it live in person, and I know Ollie's had an update on Alfonso Davies and just your general thoughts on the match, you two.
Thank you so much, Adam. Yeah, I mean, obviously, we'll wait till John Herdman when he comes and joins us. But from what we could see, and we're no doctors, I mean, Alfonso Davies remained on the bench, didn't have any kind of icing or strapping on of any kind, and just stayed and remained and watched.
Quite animated over there as well. So.
He was quite animated. So, you know, all is good here. But here they are taking on Qatar, a team that's ranked 49th in the world. Canada ranked 43. 2-0 win for the Canadians. I asked you at halftime if you felt it was a little too straightforward for Canada. So what did you make overall of the match?
Yeah, I think it was a bit more straightforward than we were probably expecting. I know that sounds like a weird thing to say, but you want a bit of adversity out of these matches, right? And this one was routine for Canada. We've been getting the vibe, you know, since we got here, to be honest, that I think the Uruguay game is the one they're really excited for. You know, it's a world-class team with top players, and that's going to be a real test for this team. And you could see with some of the substitutions, they're already starting to prepare for that, keep guys fresh, particularly Alfonso Davies, Jonathan David, those types of players. So it was a good performance from Canada with some good things for us to highlight, and obviously we will. But I definitely think Tuesday is the one where we're really going to see this team get that outside of CONCACAF test that they've been waiting for.
Junior Hoilett goes on into a position that we would normally see Tajon Buchanan with, no Atiba Hutchinson here either. He wears the captain armband. John Herdman alluded to him coming into camp, almost looking like he shaved off a few years, right? To his game. What did you make of how he played in the 90? Yeah,
he played well. I didn't think it was a game where Canada were massively tested defensively, but you can see that transition to wing-back is going quite well for him for club and country. What I thought also stood out with him was that, you know, he went the distance in the match, and you could see right until the final whistle, John Herdman on the sideline, we could hear him tonight, given the lack of supporters, you know, was really pushing Junior Hoilett to keep pressing, keep running, stay focused on his defensive commitments, and Hoilett fulfilled all of them. So, like you said, definitely a player who looks like he's a bit rejuvenated in some ways, you know, physically as well, and someone who maybe we knew he'd be important in Qatar, but could come into an even more prominent role.
That's what you see a lot of times when you have a good mix of youth and veterans, right? The veterans have that type of knowledge they can bestow on the youth, and the youth can give a little elbow once in a while to the older guys, say maybe you can hit the gym a little bit more with me too, and kind of build up that strength and keep up the pace. And Junior Hoilett did just that. Sam Piette, another one, right? Getting into the starting 11 here. We talked about him in the pregame show where he said, it's great if I get named to the 26-man roster, and you know, I'm known as that character guy in the room, but I want to play. I want to have an impact. He gets the start here tonight.
Yeah, and a very Sam Piette performance, you know, quietly controlled, reliable, just does everything you'd like him to do in terms of keeping things ticking over in central midfield. So I think that's all Canada needs from Sam Piette is to just be that reliable player. You don't need anything flashy from him. I think his ability to pick a pass and to switch the play at times is a little underrated. He can do that, you know, just like Stefan Eustaquio can obviously do, but he did well. And I think also coming off the bench, Ismail Kone catches the eye again. Like as soon as this kid steps on the pitch, you're thinking like some of the way the ability he has to play forwards, to carry the ball at times, just to inject a bit of pace in the game, particularly in the late stages when it's slowing down a little bit. He's an exciting player. He could progress really quickly, I think, in terms of this kind of depth chart.
Well, nice to see options at the midfield again with the injury to Atiba Hutchinson and Jonathan Osorio. I know 58 days to go, but you'd like to see that depth at the midfield position. Well, gentlemen, I know you're going to break down the goals. How special is it? So Cyle Larin gets the silver goal, right? 25 as he extends his lead as the all-time goal scorer for the Canadian men. But right on his heels, Jonathan David with 22. Back to you.
Yeah, the strikers looked fantastic once again. And KJ, I know you love his stat. I was going through my notes before. The 3 matches Canada have lost this year have been within 1 goal. It's been a very tight result when they do not get the 3 points. When they win, they're usually keeping a clean sheet, and it's multi-goal performances. That's the harmony that they can play with. And today, of course, we saw Alistair Johnston win the performance of the match. A great game. You could have given it to a few different center backs, but you can't avoid the topic of Cyle Larin and Jonathan David scoring again for country. It's going to be important in Qatar.
Look, it's enormous. You know, we're sitting here now where I think a lot of people are at home, and you get the sense Ollie and Andy certainly felt that this was a bit too comfortable than what people wanted. Well, you have to be careful what you wish for sometimes, because I guarantee you, if you don't have those kind of strikers that can finish those chances tonight, then you wouldn't have been able to have a game as easy, as comfortable as that. So I turn it around on the other side. I thought Canada were tremendous in this game, and you've got to put away your chances early, and they were ready to do that. And you've got two brilliant goal scorers right now at the top of the pitch, and you might only get one chance in Qatar to put that away, and you don't know whether that's minute 1 or minute 89, and you've got to take that chance when it comes. So look, I thought they were very good. I thought Johnston was terrific as well, again joining the attack. I thought him and Miller played a big part on the goals as we broke down at half-time. So look, all in all, I thought it was really good. We have to be careful. You know, it's very easy to say, oh, that opponent wasn't as good as we wanted, but sometimes you've got to look within and think what you did to make sure that it took away from them. I don't think that's anywhere close to the performance we'll see from Qatar at the World Cup, but I do think hopefully that'll be the performance we see close to Canada at the World Cup.
And the biggest thing, like you said, taking your chances, because it was 2 goals for Canada, but it probably could have been more. Ruthless was a word we heard in commentary. I think that's a good point as well, because you're right, KJ, you're not always going to have every single potential moment, and it could have been 3 or 4 in the second half. Our all-state save of the match, denying Canada another goal. It's a very clever first header, and then on the doorstep, Kamal Miller puts it off the post. The keeper, Saad El-Sheeb, playing a factor there as well, pushing away the initial chance. But if this is 0-0, all of a sudden that Kamal miss feels a whole lot more enormous.
Yeah, it certainly does. You felt a little bit for Ike Ugbo as well, who had that chance that he had a few chances early. He just puts his head in his hands. It wasn't his night sometimes as a goal scorer, but I do, not picking on him, but I do think there's a natural drop-off, again, to my point, that when David and Larin are not on the pitch, those half chances suddenly are not converted as much. And, you look at Miller there, he had a really good game as well. He's been very active in the way that he gets heavily in the final third and gets in the penalty box for CF Montreal this year. And what I loved about it was there were a number of players like Miller, like Johnston, like Piet, the 3 Montreal players, like David, like Davies, who for me translated that club form right into country today.
So something I found curious today when we sort of I mentioned I think off air, like after that second Canadian goal, maybe we're going to see the Kolieshos today, maybe we're going to see a Waterman debut. We didn't get international debuts, but we did see a curious substitution, and that was Charles-Andreas Briem, who came in. Of course, the Eindhoven man, player in form, but what do you make of Lucas Cavallini? Sat on the bench, I think, enjoying his piece of chewing gum and wondering why isn't that me?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because I think those front 3 have been all given certain specific roles. And, it definitely is a front 3. There's no doubt about it. In and out of position, it was almost a 3-4-1-2. And you could see Hoylett moved over to that left-hand side, and Briem almost came over to the right with Ugbo in the middle. So I think it was either going to be a Cavallini or an Ugbo at that point, rather than both of them on there. You really need those runners and workers to work the channel. So, yeah, interesting that Briem got that option and Cavallini didn't get that. What we know is Cavallini, for me, is a no doubter to be on the plane to Qatar. Character guy, the players love him, got opportunity. He'll get his marginal opportunities in certain games to make a difference depending on the outcome of the match and the profile. But yeah, it's a difficult one, but this is the way Canada are now, right? It's hard to get those minutes, and Kone gets his minutes today and takes his opportunity and was absolutely fantastic, I thought. Well,
Kone is another one of the CF Montreal players who I thought looked really good today. Are we maybe seeing that in a perfect world there is a way forward with whether it's Canadian MLS teams, Vancouver, Montreal, or Toronto, getting that core together and helping those players develop as players, but also the success that CF Montreal is having?
Yeah, it's a great point you make, because, we have to look at something that we're developing here within the domestic game, whether that be the Canadian Premier League, whether that be Major League Soccer, and have that translate to the success of the national team, right? That is what the formula is all around the world, but we're not used to that because we are very new to the professional game in this country. But when that is working out for their clubs, you hope that it comes in and they're able to have the freedom and the confidence and a bit of swagger that you have at the club game to come and say, no, that shirt doesn't feel heavy anymore. And that's down to the culture, that's down to the leaders, that's down to the players and the coaches staff to say, no, you put that shirt on and you be the same as you do for what you do for your clubs. And there's a lot of countries and a lot of players around the world that are unable to do that. And already I'm seeing it with Kone. I love the fact that he just gives the freedom to go out and do what he wants. He doesn't look like he's got the shackles on. He doesn't look like he's overcoached. And so far, we're seeing the benefit.
Well, speaking of swagger, 3 of the 4 people we're about to hear from now definitely have a fair share of swagger. Let's head back to Vienna and hear from some of the Canadians who made a big impact today.
Adam, thank you. Great to have Junior Hoylett and Kyle Larin joining us here. Junior wearing the armband, looking fantastic, going the full 90. How did that game feel for you?
It was good. It was good to get some minutes and some experience going into the World Cup run. We did a lot of good stuff, and there's a lot of stuff we could sharpen up as well, but it was a all-around great performance.
Kyle, when you've got Alfonso and Johnny either side of you, and then a player like Junior playing wing back as well now, it must feel pretty good as a striker in terms of the creativity in the team.
Yeah, it feels good. I mean, those guys are quality players, top players, and playing in a really good leagues. And it's just you see on the field, the connection is strong, and we can score from anywhere. And it's hard for teams to defend us when we can play like this.
Yeah, very true. I mean, picking up goal number 25, congratulations on that, the nice silver goal. But, you know, Junior, watching you play, too, it looks like you've shaved so many years off. How are you feeling? How has the year been going for you, just physically? What kind of shape do you feel like you're in?
No, I feel in top form. Started off the season strong with my club, and trying to bring it here to the national team. It's a very important year for me and for the country as well. So any benefits I do off the field to give us that extra percent going into the World Cup is a plus, and I feel great going in, especially with strikers around me and a lot of legs around me. It makes the job easier. So no, I feel great.
We know Canada's been a really dangerous kind of transitional team, but you guys played some really quality football in possession tonight as well. Maybe just walk us through that first goal, Kyle, and how it unfolded.
Yeah, I think we came from the right side playing the ball around, and switched it to the left. Fonzie got the ball in the middle, put it outside, and Sam just put in a great ball. And then, I mean, I score a lot at the back post in my years, and it felt good to score again. But we're confident on the ball. We have quality players, like I said again, and we'll just keep working on that for the next year.
Job done here tonight with the win. Let's look ahead to Uruguay. Junior, I'll start with you.
Yeah, of course, Uruguay is going to be a tougher competition. It's a good test going into the World Cup, like I said. This is what we needed going into the World Cup, play higher ranked teams and really test us and push us to reach new levels. That's what we need going into teams against Belgium and Croatia. And like I said, we got to take everything on board off the field, in training, get ourselves mentally prepared and ready to go again.
Yeah. Suarez, Nunes must feel pretty exciting as a striker to be on the same pitch as those guys.
Yeah, it is. But I don't think any of our players are scared to play against these players, and we know we have the quality and the strength to compete against these guys. And we've been showing the world from last 4 years, and we'll keep pushing on to the World Cup.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate the two of you joining us. Junior, Kyle, back to you in studio.
There's something so magnificent about Kyle Larin just being the most even-keeled person. He gets on there and he's got the killer instinct. Of course, now he's adding to his list as Canada's all-time leading scorer on the men's side of things. But that guy just has another gear, and it just seems like whenever he plays for country, maybe it hasn't come off for him yet on club level, but anytime he has that maple leaf on his chest, he is out to deliver. And it didn't take him very long to get the goal scoring started today as well. I think we should get a stopwatch out, KJ, for this one, just to see how long he spends in the air. But it's not just the finish, it's a great team goal.
It's a really good team goal, and look, Larin will get the headlines, but I think everything about it speaks to how well they came out the gates. You know, Piet spraying passes around, obviously the shape working out, Adekubi being further beyond than you'd expect a line, Eustáquio being heavily involved, Johnston as a right-sided centre-back. This is not a right-back, a right-sided centre-back, heavily involved. Then he's joining Hoylett, then he's going beyond Hoylett at that point. You can see Qatar get deeper and deeper. Davies in a free roll, then sprays it out to the left-hand side. You've got Adekubi over there. And then you've got a fantastic header, a goal-scoring header, the one-touch finish, which is what Kyle Larin has made, you know, his own in World Cup qualifying, one-touch finishes. He doesn't need to make any more than that. The other thing I want to add about Larin is he only played 45 minutes today, but I thought he was really, really good without the ball. And, you know, you can see that it's infectious, that everybody's committing to the cause. Jonathan David is, you know, he's worth more money than Larin. Some people would say he's going to get his record. He's going to score more goals than him in the end. But David works so hard without the ball. Yeah. And now Alfonso Davies is starting to that more. And then if you like Kyle Larin, who looks really fit and in great shape, by the way, he's noticing, I've got to do that too, because then we're going to benefit from that. And that's what they're going to have to do against Belgium. It's what they're going to have to do against Croatia. They understand that. And I thought, you know, we can look back at this game and people remember the goal, the dominant possession, how much control they had. But those moments where Qatar had the ball in the first half, I thought they were really good without possession.
I've been impressed too with how they seem to play off of each other, Larin and David. It's no matter who's in form, it's whether that's something that's bred on the training ground where they see some of the finishes that they have have are just the work rate, and they're like, well, I can do that too. Let me show up. And it is that front three, as you allude to now. And if you want to have Alphonso Davies, whether it's on the wing or almost in a number 10, it's a good position to be in, because Jonathan David is scoring goals again for country as well. I believe 47 between the two of them now, and it's just becoming artistic up top for Canada, and it's another, again, good team goal, and Hoylett with the ball at his feet for a fair chunk of this as well.
Yeah, and Larin began the play. You can see him come so deep again, right, when it's over on that left-hand side, and there's a lot of freedom, there's a lot of interchange, straight away. Alphonso Davies in that central role. He's got quick feet. He's good with his back to the goal. I think that's another reason why I like him in those central areas as well. And then they can play through the lines really quickly. Jonathan David, obviously, with the ball out wide to Kamal Miller, who's, again, an advanced-sided, wide centre-back position. And then, David puts the ball away and, does what he does best, right? So shows a bit of charisma and a little bit of swagger himself. So 2 big goals inside 13 minutes, and that was the match.
And it's a different match without those 2 goals, especially with how Qatar can really nullify games and make it boring and make you react to them instead of Canada taking it to them. So there's no doubt that the 2 early goals from Canada made a big difference here today. And if you missed it at halftime, a reminder, the Canadian men's national team all-time goal scoring list. Yes, that is Kyle Larin on top, 25 goals through 53 appearances. Jonathan David is now tied with Osaze's dad. That is 81 caps in 22 matches for Dwayne De Rosario. Jonathan getting there in just 33 matches. John Catliff and Dale Mitchell, they are tied for 4th with 19 apiece. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will hear from the boss. That is right, John Herdman is standing by and ready to speak to Oliver Platt and Andy Petrillo. Mission accomplished in the first match, a clean sheet and goals from David and Larin in a 2-0 victory for Les Rouges. More from Matchday Live right after this.
A new era for Canadian soccer begins today. Experience the emotion of every match. Watch all the highlights, the breaking news, the best debates, and analysis. And all the information about the Canadian stars playing abroad. Get access to the best of Canadian soccer from any device. Join the new dawn of an unstoppable game. See the rise on onesoccer.ca.
We call it the beautiful game, where artistry leaves you in awe, mixed with emotion that grips the soul. We are witness to beautiful goals, where unbelievable cannot begin to describe what we just saw. It is where pride comes to life on the pitch. Respect has been earned. This is where one game is found on One Soccer.
For life's transitions, working from home, and even small businesses, life gets better when you have space. With no long-term contracts or leases, get the size you need. First 4 weeks free. Access Storage. Proud partner of Canada Soccer's men's national team.
The full-time stats presented by Toyota Canada outshooting Qatar 13-8. 8 is how many total shots Qatar had. That is how many Canada had on target. They did such a good job at neutralizing any sort of Qatari transition today. Held a fair portion of the ball as well, 61% to 39. The fouls, 14 of them in total. Canada being charged with 9 of those. 10 corners in the match, 6 from Les Rouges and 4 for the Maroon. Back out to Vienna now as John Herdman joins Andy Petrillo and Oliver Platt, excuse me.
John, congratulations on the win. Check done. You get that. But of course, the first question, everyone sees Alphonso Davies go down. Any update?
I think he's all right. He was sitting on the bench smiling, so yeah, I think he's fine. I mean, we were trying to get him out at the 55th minute just before it happened, so you know, this is what we've got to do. I think wrap those players up in cotton wool, but I think at the same time, you know, they're pretty tough.
John, you took charge of that one pretty quickly. What do you make of the performance overall?
Yeah, really happy. We were concerned that first 20 minutes would be out of rhythm. As I said yesterday, they had a great match day -1 lead in. The feel was good. Tactically, they were on point. And I thought the first 20 was probably their best 20 minutes of the game. They really took hold of Qatar and showed, when we're fully focused and on point, that brotherhood, the connectivity, and then the tactical excellence with individual quality. Yeah, it was all there to see for that first 25, 30 minutes. I thought they were unplayable.
Well, and a great point, because I mean, a lot of people would say, all right, 49th ranked Qatar, 43 ranked Canada, maybe the test will be a little tougher or a little bit more on par, but Canada just really took over in that game. Is that also just a testament to this team and what they can do?
Yeah, I think we know the quality of Alfonso and Johnny David, but I think you've seen Kyle Larin, a lot of questions people had about will he be fit, will he be ready for this game, and yeah, I think he showed. Those players that play around the Alfonsos and Johnnies, they keep stepping up. Alistair Johnson, I thought, was brilliant tonight. Stefan Eustáquio again. And then, when we made the changes, we were still able to show, real high-quality football, good tempo. We had a lot of good chances in the second half. I'd like to have seen more goals, but to keep a clean sheet away from home, and our first trip away for 4 years, I mean, yeah, we're pretty happy.
You mentioned Johnston there. It seemed like him and Kamal Miller were given real license to be aggressive in this game. Is that something where you maybe think the team can evolve a little bit in terms of the attacking problems you can cause?
Well, I think, this team are going to set off, and we knew that. They're a very compact team, and we needed those sort of +1 overloads, and we needed to come from deep areas to sort of just displace their block and create some numerical superiority on the side. So, I was really impressed with Ali and Kamal. They really handled that, but they can't do it unless Stefan and Sam Piet, they sit in behind them, and I thought they did a very good job, stayed disciplined. We got caught once or twice, and that's the stuff we'll be looking at. And you play Uruguay, it'll be a different template. They're not gonna sit off and let your centre backs overlap. I can't imagine that too much.
Well, before we let you go, it's just incredible what we see with this goal scoring power. I mean, no sooner does Kyle Larin get goal number 25 to increase his lead as the all-time goal scorer for the men. Jonathan David says, right here, I'm going to score number 22. Please tell me there's some sort of fun little bet going on in the background here between these two chasing each other.
They just love scoring. I think, when they play for this country, with the quality they have around them, they just get great service. But what I'd point to is the work they put in. I mean, Kyle's numbers were off the charts tonight. We were watching the live GPS numbers on the sideline, and he's putting a shift in. And if you know about Johnny, he's probably the most hard-working centre forward in, I wouldn't say world football, but definitely he's up there.
Yeah. Well, congratulations again on the win, and we look forward to Uruguay.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
Well, John Herdman out of screaming voice due to the amount of it that he does during the match, but good to hear that it is a happy gaffer and it is a happy room. Some interesting ones, of course, want to wrap players up in cotton wool. Yes, that is the dynamic that they have to try and maintain in form and collectivity while also not wanting to risk an injury in a friendly. Also found it interesting that he said he believed there being Qatar's best 20 minutes was the first 20 minutes when Canada scored 2 goals, and then from there, by what we want to talk about next, Canada's shape and the way they executed within that system is what really helped propel them to the victory and, importantly, also, as John alludes to, keep the clean sheet.
Yeah, we showed it on the goals, but there is more evidence to this. I think, I think he called it tactical excellence, and I like that phrase. And certainly tactical intelligence, you could say as well. You could just see how comfortable they are in this shape, right? So, this is against a Qatar team that I thought were quite deep, but when they did have those attacks, look who's working hard right there for defending. Jonathan David. Where's Larin getting the ball? Now, look inside. Now, here we go. This is what I talked about in the pregame show, right? There's your defensive structure, and then there's your ability to attack in transition. Now, Piet comes out here to play in this wide right role at this point. What is he looking for? Outlets? Well, of course he is, and he's got them right away. Look how far Alistair Johnson is as a centre-back. Eustáquio can can spray it wide as well. You've got overlaps, and by the way, that's not including Alphonso Davies, who comes inside. So there's lots of ideas that you can do. They're just two ones that we showed, but you're creating those overlaps. And as you alluded to, look, you're not going to get that profile of a game in Qatar against Belgium and Croatia. Facts. Everybody knows that. But if you're going to develop a team going forward, if you want to win CONCACAF again, if you want to play teams like that, if you want, maybe you try and get a goal against Morocco and they sit deep in a game, or one of those teams is up 1-0 late, you've got to have that ability. It cannot just be based on the strikers. You've got to be able to come in and play that game. And I think they've got players in all positions now that are tactically very, very comfortable in different roles.
And it brings me back to the old saying, you can only play the game in front of you. There's no point thinking about Qatar. Thinking about Uruguay next. Yes, that's going to be a different challenge, but that is, again, a different challenge, not what we're speaking about today. One more note from John Herdman to point out that he wanted more goals in that second half. One of the reasons why he mentioned that is Canada had their fair share of chances today. Notably, the substitutes who might have been feeling a little bit of pressure, knowing they're coming in off the bench and wanting to make an impact and know that, or they show that to John Herdman that they can come in and score. But Kone creating as well, it's just the finishing that lets them down a bit here.
Yeah, Ugbo will certainly want that one back. He gets it deflected by Balum, and you think, okay, this is all about Kone, though, for me. Adakubi comes inside. Another factor in that shape situation that I didn't say there is that the fullbacks played inside a lot as well, which I think was really interesting to me. That was a really a good ability for them to get involved in the game. But yeah, you'd want that one back if you're Ugbo. There's a number of chances here. This was the chance that we showed earlier with Kamal Miller just blasting it off the bar. I think Kamal Miller will be happy with his goal scoring this year, though. He's had a few already. I think he's got 3 goals. He got a big one at BMO Field when he said the night before to his family he felt like he was going to score. So, look, if you're going to miss a chance from 2 yards out, do it in the last minute when you're up 2-0.
Absolutely. Not many things to try and critique here in this performance from Canada today. It was a convincing result all across the pitch. And all in, John Herdman and everyone who wore the Maple Leaf today will be able to put their heads on their pillows in Vienna and start to think about Uruguay and maybe dream about what is to come on Tuesday. We are not long from wrapping up today's show, but that is not it for the football on One Soccer today. York United, they will host Valor. That is a 7:30 p.m. Eastern time start tonight. Tomorrow, just the one match, and it is a fantastic one. A battle for top of the table. Tommy Wheeldon Jr. side beginning a homestand to wrap up the season by welcoming in Atletico Ottawa, a 3 p.m. Mountain Time kickoff. Sunday, a doubleheader. First on the East Coast with the Wanderers welcoming in Pacific for a 3 p.m. local time start in Halifax. And then FC Edmonton hosts Forge on Sunday to wrap up the doubleheader. Forge, they're trying to use that match in hand and try and create some separation of their own towards the top of that table. Well, the goal scoring, it came in bunches early in this match, and then the creation continued, the shape, the evolution, everything that Canada wanted to see tonight was present, as it was a great result over the World Cup host Qatar. More on the friendly after this.
We're used to labels. Apologetic. Sweet. Pushovers.
1, 2, 3, bang!
But screw labels. No more being polite. No more sugarcoating. Because we're labelless and limitless. Oat Canada, the official plant protein partner of Canada Soccer.
Fun. Intelligence. Drive. They run in the family. Corolla.
We call it the beautiful game, where artistry leaves you in awe, mixed with emotion that grips the soul. We are witness to beautiful goals, where unbelievable cannot begin to describe what we just saw. It is where pride comes to life on the pitch. Respect has been earned. This is where one game is found on One Soccer.
Well, we won't have to wait very long to see Les Rouges back in action. Another international friendly on One Soccer Tuesday. Canada will be making the short train trip, I imagine, from Vienna to Bratislava, back to their home base for this series, and they will be taking on. It's going to be a bus?
I think an air-conditioned bus.
Okay. Okay, well, we'll see if we can get some heavy-hitting reporting on that from Ollie. But yes, it is Uruguay, and that is a team worth a whole bunch of money and a proper barometer for Canada. That is an 11 a.m. Central Time start, 9 a.m. Pacific against Suarez. Come on, it's ridiculous to say out loud. That's where we are. For more on that match, let's head back to Andy and Ollie on perhaps why they're playing in Slovakia.
Well, guys, as we look ahead to Uruguay, a lot of people might be asking, Ollie, why two different locations? A lot of people thought both games would be played in Vienna, Austria, but now it's Vienna. We're going to make our way now to Bratislava, Slovakia. So why the two different spots?
Yeah, it sounds like Canada prefer the facilities in Bratislava. After getting here and looking around a little bit, they decided that there's a bit of a preference there. They've been training there the whole time, obviously, in Bratislava, at a facility just outside of Bratislava. And then the game, obviously, will be in a new stadium in the city itself, which I think they like quite a bit. So this one was technically a home match for Qatar, and so they had control over the venue in the end and decided to keep it in Vienna. But Canada has set up a nice base in Slovakia just across the border, and we'll see them play Uruguay over there.
Yeah, Uruguay apparently, obviously, not having any problems making the trip over there either. And John Herdman said that once when he was 16 years of age with school, he went on a skiing trip to Bratislava, fell in love with it. If he had a good time then, he's hoping to have a good time on Tuesday as well. Back to you guys.
John Herdman skiing in Bratislava. That is the kind of reporting and journalism we expect from Andy and Ollie. And I will say, too, one of the reasons why they probably can't stay in Vienna is that I'm almost convinced Qatar's just booked out this stadium when there's not domestic football, because Qatar is playing on Tuesday as well against Chile, so they may not have had the ground.
Too, by the way.
Yeah,
it's a lovely place to go, but you don't want to spend a lot of time there.
We don't want to dip our toes into too much about the Qataris and money. But what I will say is I want to talk about money because it's important. John Herdman was quick on the draw, quick on the math. This was his quote when we spoke to him yesterday. This is generally our first team in that plus $400 million valuation with $60 million players in every line. This is our new reality. The Cavani's, the Suarez's, the Nunez. I mean, it's going to be one heck of a test, but just how big of a test? I mean, it's easy to look at the roster and be like, ooh, Barcelona, ooh, Real Madrid, ooh, big players. But on top of that, the pedigree that this association, this federation has is pretty significant.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic fixture that they found. And you could make the case that it's a crucial test, right? Because, you couldn't go into those games against Belgium and Croatia without playing, I don't think, a more perfect opponent ahead of that, because there's a lot of things that this team does well that they're already doing well. They play really well with the ball. They dominate in midfield. They play together a very long time, much like Croatia. So I think it's a really good test, and I'm really glad they were able to get the Uruguayan Football Association to agree to it. As you mentioned, the stars will make it, but with Vecino in midfield, there's so many other players underneath that you could go into. Valverde is one of the most underrated world stars for me in the game. So yeah, they play together really well, and again, I think it's going to be a different profile of a game, and Canada I think they'll be looking forward to it, to be fair. They've played a lot. This ended up looking like a lot like a game they played earlier in the World Cup profile, and again, I don't think that was not a knock on Qatar. I think it was the success of Canada, but there's got to be a point where they've got to really relish the grind. They got to get used to knowing that they're going to have a game with 35% possession. Mm-hmm. These games are coming fast, and what they're going to do within that and take those opportunities. So I know, the coaching staff are just absolutely thrilled they're able to get this game, and it should be fantastic. Join us on Tuesday.
Well, they speak about cohesion and getting Canada back together in the training environment because they don't have that many days together before the World Cup. But I know it's not necessarily the exact schedule that they wanted. They go Qatar, they go Uruguay, but then they have Japan as well. And that's going to be another test just a week before the World Cup. And like you say, that is when it's put up or shut up time. If it doesn't go your way, sure, you have 2026 around the corner. But what is it about these players? I know you've spoken to a lot of them with Beyond the Pitch and all of the work you've done there. Do you think, like we saw from Kyle Larin in that interview, they have any sort of trepidation, or it's just excitement that they can finally prove that Canada has taken that step?
So it's another great question. You have to maintain the excitement. You have to maintain the passion. And I think that, yes, that The challenges are very different. The hurdles are a lot higher than what they're going to have to, than what they have overcome before. But I still think that they have to look upon it as being a challenge they can overcome. And, you know, it's up for everybody else to say, okay, Canada, they probably won't beat Belgium. Or if they played Belgium 1 in every 8 games, they might beat them once. But they might beat them once, and that's the one, right? And what they have is belief, and they have an unbelievable amount of confidence in their abilities. And I don't think that's dwindling, even though they've been given 2 very difficult opponents, 2 opponents who were in the Final Four of the World Cup last time, and as I said, battle-hardened together, experienced, you name it. So I think the passion and the excitement will be there. When the World Cup starts and the world starts turning on them, then it'll start to feel like it's getting hotter and the pressure will come on. But at the moment, I don't feel like that is there when I speak to these players at all, and I really love that, because I think if you spend far too much time focusing on those other teams, you'll spend the entire time on the pitch watching them play.
Right. Yeah, that's not the time to be a spectator. That's the time to show what you can do. And we keep talking about players auditioning for bigger moments, potentially some career-changing transfers to big clubs. The eyes of the world will very soon be on Canada, and I think there's going to be a lot of very curious nations watching the result of this friendly on Tuesday. Uruguay is the next match for Les Rouges. It will be taking place in Bratislava, like we showed you, and we hope for another exciting match. This one, we can promise you, it might have 2 goals, but it will not be a clean sheet for Canada in that match unless everything is perfect. And that is what makes this lead up to the World Cup so exciting. For my partner, Christian Jack, thank you to Patrice Bernier and Scott Arfield for joining us. 2-0 Canada. See you on Tuesday.
We're used to labels. Apologetic. Sweet. Pushovers.
1, 2, 3, bang!
But screw labels. No more being polite. No more sugarcoating. Because we're labelless,